court is now back in session, and the floor is given to the defense team for Mr. Nunchia to resume the questioning. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before I start, let me respond to the question of Judge Laverne in relation to Office 62. Office 62 and Office 63 can not only be seen as listed on document that I mentioned earlier, E3/849, but also, as I said, appears in Duik's testimony. On the 28th of March 2012 at 15:02, he talked about Son Sen, and he said, my superior had several aliases. In the army he was called Brother 89. At S21, when we wrote letters to him, we would address Brother 62. And in his case 001 testimony, E3/5804 at 9:25 in the morning, he said, he talks about Office 62 and Office 63 being the logistics office from the General Staff. I hope this answers the question. Mr. Witness, in the morning I talked to you about the various divisions and a little bit about hierarchy within those military structures. And I started by quoting something from what you said, that you were doing the job of a soldier or a military unit because the General Staff was fully in charge of S21. Let me read to you an excerpt from Duik's testimony in relation to the same subject, and then I will ask you whether you agree with him, yes or no. Mr. President, that is Duik's testimony in case 002 on the 10th of April 2012, E1/62.1 at about 15:33 in the afternoon. And this is what Duik tells the chamber, Mr. Witness. As an independent regiment, S21 is under the subordinate of the General Staff. As for the logistics, weaponry, and medical supplies, clothing, uniforms, for instance, they are under the direct subordinate of the General Staff. End of quote. Do you agree with that testimony, Mr. Witness, yes or no?
I agree with that statement because subunits were under the General Staff. Tanat was the former staff member of 703, and he had overall command of the division. So I agree with that statement.
Now, did this ever change between 75 and 79? Or was it, according to your recollection, always the same? The same in terms of hierarchy, military structure, etc.?
I not know whether the hierarchy or military structure changed or remained the same. Since, as I said, I focused on my main tasks only.
Fair enough, Mr. Witness. Now let me talk about Duik and his position in the military hierarchy, or in the hierarchy. In one of his very first appearances before the investigating judges in his own case, he, or rather his lawyer, compared him to a colonel in the hierarchy. Mr. President, E3/5725, English ERN 001-45457, Khmer 001-45434. The French I will provide you a bit later. So, Mr. Witness, Duik agrees with the instruction, but his lawyer calls him a colonel in the hierarchy.
President, please hold on. Counsel, you may have the floor now. International Deputy Co-Prosecutor.
Merci. L'interprète.
Thank you. The French interpreter did not hear the ERN number in English, so we are unable to cross-check what Deutsch said. Furthermore, I would like the defense to give us a number of the document before laying the foundation of the question, because if it doesn't do so, we do not have the time to cross-check the number and the content. Instead of saying the lawyer said such and such a thing before giving us the reference, it's better to give us a reference so that we can cross-check and acquaint ourselves with what the lawyer said before the question is asked.
General Counsel, to use one of your favorite quotes, whatever happened to open questions? I know it's tempting, given all the documents, to use them, but frankly, one open question, then confront him with a document is actually the way we usually go. Specifically, if you confront him not with a statement of his own, but with something the lawyer of somebody else said.
I have no problem in asking an open question. To answer the prosecution, E3/5725, English ERN 001-45457, and again Khmer 001-45434. Mr. Witness, if you would compare Duik in terms of a present-day military hierarchy or the hierarchy of Lon Nol at the time, how would you describe him? Would he be a major? Would he be rather a colonel? Or would he be rather a general?
I am not certain about this particular issue. Based on my conclusion, when he came, he was equated to the divisional level. So he had the rank equal to the divisional level. When he was at PJ, he was the deputy of Tanat. That was my conclusion. However, I am not certain, as I said.
Well, let me follow up on that answer. Mr. Witness, you said that he was at the same level as division commanders. Is that my understanding? Should that be my understanding? At the level of division commanders?
It was my conclusion. He was equal to the divisional commander. He was the former deputy of Tanat. So I can say that that individual was the deputy of the division, and he was part of the divisional level.
Is that something you know, or is that something you conclude?
That was not the official announcement on the position of that particular individual, and as I said, I presume that since he was the deputy of the commander, he was in the divisional level. Again, that individual was Officer Tanat. So it is my conclusion that he had the rank or level equal to the divisional level.
Did you ever see Duik in the presence of division commanders? Did you ever see him study in the presence of division commanders or deputy division commanders?
I do not know about this particular issue, particularly the presence of an individual at the study session held by the division. I was simply had a role rank.
I understand. Let me see if I can try it differently. Mr. Witness, do you know who today in this country is the Prime Minister?
Could you repeat your question? I did not get it clearly.
My question was whether you know who the Prime Minister is in this country today.
I know the current Prime Minister is Samdech Hun Sen.
Do you know if he had any military position during the Democratic Kampuchea regime?
I do not know on this particular issue, particularly in relation to his role or position in the Democratic Cambodia.
Let me see if I can assist you a bit by saying to you, by telling you what Duik said about the former position of the present Prime Minister. Mr. President, I'll be referring to document E3/106. Khmer ERN 0177625, French 00177 till 646, excuse me, in English 00177 He said Hun Sen had the same rank as me, that is, commander of a regiment, but he had combatants under his order. End of quote. So Duik seems to compare himself to a regiment commander rather than a division commander. Can you react on that, please?
regarding his comparison, I am not certain the position of the current Prime Minister. And Asnat was the commander of the division. The deputy would have equal powers to that individual. And as I said, I did not know about the official appointment of that individual position.
Fair enough. Let's move away from the Prime Minister. But you have been a military person. You've been in Division 12, in Division 703, Independent Regiment 21. The military hierarchical position of Duik was that of a commander of a regiment.
I am not able to draw a conclusion on this particular issue. There was no official appointment at the time. I did not know for sure whether he was the commander of a regiment or division. What I know is that he was the actual commander of S-21.
The French ERN of that quote, Mr. President, is 00145476. Let me see if I can try it differently. Mr. Witness, Duik said something about S21, the Regiment 21, E3/1578, Khmer ERN 00178023, English 00194549, and again French I will provide a bit later. Duik compares S21, or he rather says S21 is the equivalent to a district committee when it concerns decision for the arrests of re-educated persons. So in terms of level, he compares S21 to a district committee. Is that something that you can react on?
I cannot make any comparison since I have limited understanding of the structure or the level of the district committee. I do not know how powerful the district committee was.
I understand. No problem, Mr. Witness. French ERN that I just referred to is 00178035-36. Let me turn back to what Duik's lawyer said when Duik appeared for the first time in his case before the investigating judges. His lawyer said not only, it's the same ERN as just mentioned, Mr. President, his lawyer not only said that Duik should be compared to a colonel in the hierarchy, but also that he, quote unquote, was very distant from those at the high level, end of quote. Is that something?
Counsel, that's weird. A lawyer is a witness, or what do you call him for? If I understand that correctly, this was in the debate of a legal decision.
No.
But again, just because a lawyer says something, what gravitas does that have in itself?
Because in the next sentence he says, I condone fully what my lawyer just said to the judge. So it's not only the lawyer who says that, but as I explained, Mr. Witness, Duik fully agreed with this. His lawyer said that Duik was very distant from the high level, from those at the high level. Is that something that you were in a position to observe at the time?
In relation to comparison, I cannot do it. All I know is that when a divisional commander came to be in charge of an office, the deputy would have quite a similar power of the division. This is my conclusion, but I am not certain about this issue.
That's fine, Mr. Witness. Let me move on. What is it that you can say about the relation between Division 703, the successor of Division 12, and Regiment 21 in terms of personnel? Can you give an estimate as to how many people within Regiment 21 originated from Division 703, and how many, like Duik for instance, did not come from Division 703?
Answer, as I said, President, please hold on. Mr. Witness, you can have the floor now. Deputy Co-Prosecutor.
J'ai l'impression qu'il y a eu
I have an impression that there was a semantic slip on the part of the defense, and now the defense considers that it is established that we are indeed talking of Regiment 21. I do not think that is the case. The witness didn't say that, so you cannot qualify S21 as Regiment 21. Regiment 21.
I'm a bit puzzled by that last remark, Mr. President. Not only one can see in all military documents that it is indeed Regiment 21, Independent Regiment 21, but I just quoted Duik from his testimony on the 10th of April before the Chamber in this very case, where he says, as an independent regiment, S21 is under the subordinate of the General Staff. So I think that's very clear. So if you allow me, let me go back to the question. Mr. Witness, are you in a position to say how many of the Regiment 21 cadres originated from Division 703, and how many did not come from 703, including Duik and Pom and I believe Chan? Are you in a position to tell us this?
As I told you already, I do not know about the total number of staff from S21. There were interrogation and guard units, and I know only the total number of guard unit. And if you want to know in detail about the total number of staff member of S21, Ming could shed light on that.
Let me confront you with what Duik said, just to speed up things, Mr. Witness. Mr. President, that's one of his statements before the military court. I'll just refer to the D number because it doesn't have an E3 number yet. D/288/6.52/4.40, English ERN 003293999, and Khmer 0009560. French will come shortly, Mr. President. So, Mr. Witness, Duik says to the military court that 95% of S-21 cadres came from Division 703. In your recollection, is that percentage of 95% accurate?
President, please hold on. Mr. Witness, you have the floor now, International Deputy Co-Prosecutor.
Désolé pour l'interruption, mais
Sorry to interrupt. The reference of the document was given too fast. The interpreter couldn't hear it. We do not have the ERNs. And as regards the question, it would be important to know when the quotation was made. Was it at the beginning of the working of S-21 or at the end? Because the time matters, and so counsel should ask the question on a very specific period or time frame.
I'll be happy to say again the document number, D/288/6.52/4.40. English ERN 003293999, Khmer 0009560, and French will come shortly. It's not entirely clear as to when, what time frame Duik had in mind, because his military court statements are not very extensive. Nevertheless, at any point in time, Mr. Witness, did Regiment 21 or Office 21 consists of more than 95% of former Division 703 cadres?
Let me clarify that S-21 was under the command of Tanat, who was from Division 703. So he would have selected cadres from the Division 703, but I do not know the exact number of the cadre from 703. When I was at PJ, Tanat was responsible for managing the forces, and I know for sure that Tanat was from 703.
But cadres like Hui, Him Hui, Peng, Hor, Meng, they're all former 703 cadres, correct?
Correct.
Now let me go to a document that I would like to show you now. That is a document that has already been discussed with you last week. That is document E3/8493. English ERN 0018163. French, excuse me, there's no French. Khmer 000955505. It's a document that I would like to have on the screen as well, with your permission, Mr. President.
Yes, your request is granted.
There it is. Last week, if I remember correctly, Mr. Witness, you said that you didn't recognize this document, but if I'm not mistaken, you said that this was a document coming from the time that Nat was still in charge. Is that correct?
No, this document was not under Nat's supervision.
I don't have the exact quote from the transcript now before me, but maybe for the Duty Council, I'm referring to this particular document because it consists of two documents. This overview, Khmer ERN 000955505. It's a list called Daily Prisoner Control List. On the top, one can see Office 21A, Office 21C, and then total detained.
Perhaps we can have it on screen. That would be helpful.
Just to be sure, Mr. Witness, can you have a look at the screen? Asking my question again, Mr. Witness, is that a document still from the time that Nat was in charge?
This document existed a long time ago, and I cannot recall it for sure as who was in charge when it was produced. Judge Laverne, you have the floor.
Maybe for the public and for the purposes of the record, maybe you could provide us with the date that is on this document.
That was actually what my question was going to be about. Mr. Witness, on the bottom of that page, you can see a date that it is this daily prisoner control list is done on the 11th of April 1976. Do you see that date?
Yes, I see the date here. That is in April 1976.
Now my question again, and I believe previously you said that this was a document when Nat was still in charge. Having now seen the date as well, can you tell us, is this a document that reflects the period that Nat was still in charge of Office S21?
As I have stated, when I was in Tuxtlan, I didn't see Tanat, and I could not say for sure about this document. However, if it was made on 11 April 1976, it was not under the supervision of Tanat. However, I could not recall the exact period as when it happened in 1976, although I know it was in 1976, but I cannot recall the month.
I understand, but my last attempt, on that same document you see Office 21A and Office 21C. Is that something that reflects the period that Nat was still in charge? Or is that something that reflects the period that Duik had taken over?
It is difficult for me to make any conclusion. This is a document produced by the interrogation office, and I cannot say for sure whether this document was produced when Nat was in charge.
That's no problem. Mr. Witness, let me turn now to document E3/10062, 10062. There is no translation of that document, so there's only a Khmer ERN page. I will not go into the content of that document very much. Khmer ERN 01012815. Maybe it can be put on the screen with your leave, Mr. President.
Yes, your request is granted.
Please, to the IT unit, leave it on the screen as long as parties discuss it, or whoever is in charge.
Are you in charge? No, it's up them up there. There it is. Mr. Witness, can you have a look at the second name from the top? Do you see that name? Can you read that name for me, please?
The name is Yim Sambat. And after that it reads Kabat Phnom Penh, 50-man unit, Division 170, East Zone, and he was detained on the 4 April 1976.
Do you recognize this document?
Yes, I recognize this document. It's from Office 21.
Did you yourself make this document or write this document?
Yes, I was the one who wrote this document.
Do you remember where you were when you made this document? Were you already at Tulsling or were you somewhere else?
As I have stated, I cannot recall the exact periods that I came to work at PJ prison or at the Tulsling. So it is unclear to me as to the period of my arrival at the PJ prison or Tulsling.
And that is exactly where my question was going to. Mr. Witness, so you don't know whether you wrote this document when still at PJ or when you wrote this document already at the Tulsling premises?
Yes, that is correct.
Let me move on to the next document. And with your leave, I will put that on the screen as well, Mr. President. It is document E3/1038. And the Khmer ERN of that document is 00008144. English 0008147, and French 002808874. Mr. Witness, this is a document that you do not recognize. It's written by Duik, and it's about an enemy taking away a weapon and shooting himself. I wait for it to be on the screen. There it is. Mr. Witness, Duik wrote this document on the 16th of November 1976. But on that very page that I referred you to, he talks about the impression of experiences of the leaders, not Duik Hor. Now this is this November 76. Do you know if not still had any role to play in relation to the functioning of Office 21?
Nick.
Please repeat your question. I don't fully get it.
I understand, no problem. Do you know whether not still played any role in relation to Office 21 in November 1976?
did not know for sure about Nat's position after November 1976. I did not know whether he held any position after he was removed.
Very well, thank you, Mr. Witness. Now, before going to your position within Office 21, let me take you to the very last day of your work at S21. You answered a few questions about this already, but do you know what happened to the S21 documents the day the Vietnamese troops arrived, or the weeks before the Vietnamese troops arrived in January 79?
Regarding the events that happened before the arrival of the Vietnamese, I did not know for sure about the documents, or whether any documents were moved. I was not well aware with the latest development of the situation at the time.
Was there any time to destroy S21 documents the day the Vietnamese troops arrived, or the weeks before the Vietnamese troops arrived?
Witness, please hold on, and International Deputy Co-Prosecutor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe the questions should be directed to the witness. Well, what I'd rather say is that the question should be based on the documents that the witness might have been involved with. The previous question, in fact, was also too broad. We know that there are documents pretty much everywhere at S21, including outside. So I think you should center the questions on the documents that were under the remit of the witness, and not speak about all of the documents at S21, given that he was within the prison and not outside.
No, I do not agree with that, Mr. President. The purpose of my question is all the documents. It doesn't. It's not limited to only the documents that he was responsible for. The question is whether he knows whether there was any general order or specific order to destroy any of S21's document. That's what I want to know.
The question is permissible, and the Chamber also would like to hear the response from the witness. And witness, please respond to the last question that put to you by the Defense Counsel. Witness. Prior to the arrival of the Vietnamese in Phnom Penh, he did not give me any instruction for the destruction of any document, and the documents were still there when the Vietnamese arrived in Phnom Penh.
How is it that you know that very last thing that you said? How do you know that all documents were still somewhere at the premises of S21 when the Vietnamese arrived?
As I have stated, I could not say about the documents with the guard unit. However, for the document in my possession, that is the biographies of prisoners, I did not receive instruction from Ho to destroy those documents at all.
Is the order to destroy or not to destroy the S21 documentation, was that a subject of any conversations after all S21 cadres fled the premises, fled away from the Vietnamese?
I did not have any talk with Dutch or with Ho, because when we were fleeing Phnom Penh, we were fleeing individually, and there was no mentioning of destruction of documents.
The day that you and others fled from the Vietnamese troops, was there a sense of panic, a sense of surprise, that all of a sudden that day you heard Vietnamese tanks approaching?
On the day the Vietnamese arrived in Phnom Penh, I had not had any knowledge at all about their arrival, and only when their tanks were rolling into Phnom Penh, I heard all the noise, and that was the time that I was aware of their arrival, and then we started fleeing.
So would it be correct when I say that day was a day of big surprise and maybe also panic?
Yes, that is correct.
And my very last question in this regard, Mr. Witness, do you know where Duik kept his documents, or the copies of the S21 documents? Do you know whether he had a special place to store those documents?
As for documents under Dutch's position, I could not say about it because his office was outside the compound, so I could not say much about the documents.
Just to be certain, do you know whether he had a garage adjacent to his house where he kept his documents?
I did not know the exact locations of where Dutch worked and lived, since he worked and lived outside the main compound. For that reason, I could not tell you about a location where he stored those documents. I did not have any authority to go there.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Now let me move away from that last day at S21. And let me go back to your work at S21, but not before I ask you a question about, again, about the hierarchy. What is it that you remember about Son Sen?
As for the role and position of Son Sen in relation to S21, I do not know that for sure. I only knew that he was in charge of the general staff of the military, but as to his specific role at S21, I have no idea.
You gave an interview to the investigators of the prosecution. That is document E3/9140. English ERN and Khmer ERN is the same. 001 81082. In that interview, you called Son Sen Secretary General, direct supervisor of S21, and that they called him Tak Kyu. Correct?
Previously, he was in charge of the military, and he was referred to as a Takil, although I personally did not meet him face to face during the wartime.
But in that same interview, you said that at one point in time, while you were working at S21, he opened a meeting for all S21 cadres, and that afterwards he handed over the meeting to Duik. Same page as just referred to, Mr. President. Do you recall seeing him at a meeting, a study session, which he opened and then subsequently handed over to Duik?
Yes, that is true, because he came to make a speech during any main national anniversary.
Do you remember when that was? Exactly which year and month?
No, I cannot recall that clearly. As I have stated, it happened many years ago, so I cannot recall the dates or any specific dates. However, I recall that he was present during a national celebration.
Let me see if I can try it differently. Do you remember how many months before the Vietnamese came you saw him? How many months it was? Or years?
I cannot make a concrete conclusion on that. It could be a year or a year and a half before that date.
Another witness who was a former S21 cadre, Mr. Prak Khan, testified a few weeks ago before this chamber that he saw Son Sen 3 or 4 times in 1978. Is that something that could be accurate?
As I President interrupts the witness, please go on. And International Deputy Co-Prosecutor, you have the floor.
Merci.
Thank you. I believe we have the transcripts of the hearings. So before allowing the defense to answer the question, the defense should give the exact date, the exact time, and then he can then say what the witness said. Thank you.
It's a spontaneous question, so I don't have the reference right now, but we will look it up as I speak. But let me...
Ask the question after the break with the reference.
Okay. Yes, it's anyway a good time to have the break, Mr. President.
Juste pour préciser, il me semble.
For purposes of clarification, I do not think that is what the witness said. Perhaps the defense could cross-check that. I believe it was rather Lakmin who said it. But we'll need the exact references and the exact quotation, because I didn't hear Pat Khan talk of 3 or 4 times in 1978. I do not remember that at all. Thank you.
In fact, like me, but we will give the exact reference after the break, Mr. President.
Thank you, Counsel. It is now convenient for our lunch break. We take a break now and resume at 1:30 this afternoon. Court officer, please assist the witness at the waiting room reserved for witnesses and civil parties during the break time, and invite him as well as his duty counsel back into the courtroom at 1:30 this afternoon. Security personnel, you are instructed to take Kyo Sampon to the waiting room downstairs and have him returned to attend to the proceedings this afternoon before 1:30. The court is now in recess.